Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Between the Horns, our 2020 season recap episode. I'm JB Long. With me, DeMarco Farr, Serena Morales, Maurice Jones-Drew. And after falling in Green Bay last weekend, the Rams offseason is underway. Los Angeles, part of the Elite Eight. Wish they were still playing here on Conference Championship weekend. But we will spend a good portion of this program reviewing their successful 2020, their fourth consecutive winning campaign, and then also looking ahead to the offseason that will be. DeMarco, let's start with you. You've had about a week to process that divisional round loss against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Now that it's over, what are your thoughts on the 2020 season that was?
Oh, man. I think it was a success. I think you fell short of expectation. I think that is fair. It's a little harsh, but that's the culture we're living in with Sean McVay as your head coach, the expectation of Super Bowl. So, you know, the last 4 years, you've been a 3 seed, a 2 seed, you missed, and then you were back in the playoffs as a 6 seed. So, and then you moved on as a 6 seed. You won wild card weekend. I mean, it's been nothing but successful for Sean McVay. If you could have gotten that right in Atlanta and won the Super Bowl, I think things would have been a little bit different. But, you know, it was a tough loss, tough way to end the season with Green Bay. You know, after they beat Seattle, I think everyone on this Between the Horns, we said the same thing. It was a great win, but how much of this team is left? Everybody's beat up, and then you have to go and face Green Bay, who's been off watching. So it's going to be a tough ask, and sure enough, you didn't win the game. But I don't think that did anything to dissuade me from thinking that this year has been phenomenal. And the coaching job that Sean McVay did this year has been great. You went from an offensive juggernaut to a defensive juggernaut, and you found ways to win both ways. So I think it was a great season. Too bad it ended, but, you know, there can be only one, and it won't be the Rams this year, but it doesn't take away anything that the Rams did in 2020. It was a great year.
MJD, coming out of the draft, free agency, going into training camp, if you were to survey the landscape for predictions, I think most had the Rams in the middle of the pack, maybe just below league average. The win total, somewhere between 8 and 9. They exceeded a lot of those expectations. Does it feel that way in retrospect?
I definitely think it does. Once you take a step back and really just analyze what's going on, there was so much, right? The Rams started off hotter than we thought they would. I remember us me, you, and DeMarco having a conversation about the first 5 games. If the Rams are 3-2, if they were 4-1, right? If they were this, would you be happy? And they did that. And so I thought there was very low expectation for them, but as the season got going, they started playing better. The expectation rose, and then you'd have those stumbles along the way. I think DeMarco said it best, though. For the people in the building, the expectation always Super Bowl, always get there. You got there a couple years ago. You had a taste. You didn't win it. So it's like, we got to get back. We got to find a way. But for people on the outside in the landscape of the National Football League, the Rams were 10 times better than what everyone thought they would be after losing Todd Gurley and trading away Brandon Cooks and, you know, bringing in a young DC that no one knows about and all these different things going on, trying to pay Jalen Ramsey. And then you lock up Cooper Kupp and Robert. Like, they had a lot of work to do this offseason, re-signing Andrew Whitworth. Was he too old, right? There was so many different storylines here, but I thought they answered them really well with the way they performed. And to compete for an NFC West championship lets you know that this team is very talented. The roster they put together is really good. And then next year, the expectations are going to be much higher because you were able to perform without a lot of people having, you know, thinking highly of you.
Yeah, the bar was set, and it's insane that all that work, and there's more work to be done. Now to some news. The Rams have agreed to terms with Raheem Morris as their new defensive coordinator, taking over for Brandon Staley. The defensive coordinator that no one heard of is now the head coach of the LA Chargers. Also agreed to terms with Joe DeCamillis, who is the new special teams coordinator for the Rams. Former special team coordinator John Bonamego will remain with the team, but more as a senior coaching assistant. All right, then. DeMarco, where do you kind of see Raheem fit for this defense that's already proven itself, you know, under Brandon Staley?
Well, I think he's a fantastic coach. He's been a head coach before, and Sean McVay and Raheem Morris have history. So I think that's great. I think that's only going to help the football team get better. So I think it kind of frees Sean McVay up to kind of put his stamp back on the offense, so to speak. But I spent the entire last couple of days just going through Raheem Morris' videotape in Arizona or in Atlanta. And I don't think you have to retool that much. It's basically a 4-3 scheme with 3-4 principles, as in the defensive ends just stand up. So everywhere he's been, they've been pretty good at defense. He learned under Monty Kiffin in Tampa Bay, that Tampa 2. That's why we call it Tampa 2. He was the architect of that. Jim Haslett is a guy I know well. That's who he was under in Washington with McVay, a 3-4 genius, a guy that can morph into whatever scheme is going to be effective to your personnel. So I don't think you're going to have to retool that much. I would bring in competition for some of those spots, definitely. I don't think you're set in stone in a lot of those positions, but as far as this defense is concerned, and Aaron Donald in particular, I think this would accentuate what he does best. This will not be a detriment. I was more worried about Wade Phillips when it came to Aaron Donald, and that proved to be a no big deal. I think Raheem Morris and the group that you have on defense will fit in and work just fine here.
Yeah, and he also has worked with Sean McVay back in Tampa Bay. You were mentioning his work in 2008 and 2012 and 2014. Maurice, we just talked about it, kind of working under the number one defenses. Now you're taking over for Brandon Staley, but I know DeMarco just kind of touched on it, but are you seeing we just pick up where we left off, or do you see some changes being added?
I think you'll see different tweaks. Raheem Morris, he's going to try to run the base defense that we've come to see. I don't know if he'll have the star player, those type of things that are going to go on like we saw with Jalen Ramsey playing in the slot and different things like that. He may get creative, but for me, you bring in a guy who's been a head coach, which is huge, one, right? The same thing with Wade, where, Sean doesn't have to really focus on the defense as much anymore. And it's crazy to say that he had to focus on it, but I feel like when you have a first-year core defensive coordinator, you want to make sure like he's doing the right things. Like you want to check on him and help him out in those ways. You don't have to do that with Raheem Morris. The other thing is he can handle the Jalen Ramseys of the world that kind of get caught in the moment. Like Raheem Morris can handle those guys, and that's important because you have to be able to manage the personalities and the expectation of your players, right? Jalen Ramsey is a very big personality. You just can't bring anyone to come in to try to handle that guy. So I think that's huge. I have to talk about this, though. We haven't really harped on it. Joe DeCamillis. Now, he was my special teams coach in 2007. Joe D's an awesome dude. He has this thing where he talks about tip of the spear, right? And like you want to be the tip of the spear. You want to be the first one. You want to have that type of energy. And I think that's going to be huge for the Rams because special teams was a sore spot. You bring in a guy that's been respected around the league. He's been one of the top special teams coaches everywhere he's gone. That special teams have gotten better. And as someone that knows him very well, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge for the Rams. So I'm excited to see how all this plays out because Joe DeCamillis was a head coach too, right? He was for the Denver Broncos when Gary Kubiak got sick. He became the head coach. So very similar to the style that we had when Sean McVay first got here. You have head coaches on all the three sides of the ball. Let's see if that helps them get back to, obviously, the Super Bowl.
All right, DeMarco, let's transition to quarterback now. And since stepping off the frozen tundra at Lambeau Field, Sean McVay's had multiple opportunities to lock in his starter for next season, instead opting not to do so, saying that they will evaluate all positions heading into 2021, including quarterback. What did you make of the path that McVay chose?
Well, I'm not going to go all Dan Campbell on here just for fun. That was a great press conference. No, but look, I think it was entirely appropriate. Now, if you look at the financials of it, Jared Goff's probably more than likely going to be on this roster next year. But the way he played, the ups and downs, the peaks and valleys, I think if it was any other position, your job would be open to competition. That's just the way it goes in football. So I think Sean McVay, from a football perspective, when he has to stare out to every member of this football team in the locker room while he's given a post-game speech, win or lose, you've got to be honest or we're going to smell a phony. So you just can't throw your support behind a guy that's been up and down. So saying that he's the starter right now, that's great. I hope Jared Goff took that to heart. I hope he's working now. Whatever he didn't do or needs to do better, I hope he's doing that this offseason right now to come back better than ever. Not just to keep your job, but to get back to the Super Bowl and be great. So I think that's the standard that Sean McVay set. So if you don't meet that standard, I think your job is open to competition regardless of business. So I think he was dead on when he said it.
Maurice, if I were to describe the 2020 Rams offensively, they were not ball secure. They were not explosive. They were efficient. It's kind of 1 out of 3. How do you get the other two right, and is Jared Goff the quarterback to do so?
Well, that's a very good question, actually. I would say this. Efficient is the very first thing that you want to be, right? You want to be efficient. You want to make sure you give your defense rest. You want to be able to get first downs and move the ball. Turning the ball over was a very big problem. And it wasn't necessarily the fumbles that were the issue. It was the guys just running scot-free, right? Not understanding your reads if you're Jared Goff, if you're hot, not understanding who's the free guy in against that protection. Those were the things that were more concerning than anything. The interceptions, we were like, why are you doing that? Like, those were concerns, especially after being with Sean McVay for so many years. You should know this offense. You should have an understanding of this offense. The explosiveness will come. And I think it will come once you get those speed guys back out there. We saw that late in the year, obviously at the very end in Arizona with John Wolford throwing the ball down the field. And then the next game we come back, we see Jared Goff do it. It just seems like he needed a little bit more push there. But I'll say this. This is one thing that people don't understand about the NFL locker room. You have to match your pay. And what I mean by that is Aaron Donald's making X amount of money, Jalen Ramsey's making X amount of money, and then Jared Goff is making this amount of money, right? You're getting paid more than everybody. If you don't match your pay, it can ruin your locker room. And I think that was one of the things that we really didn't talk about for the Rams this year is that Jared struggled, but the price tag that he has makes it that much more worse. And the beautiful thing about it is they were able to keep that locker room together because I've been a part of the locker rooms. They may not have been the quarterback. It might have been another player or another position. But if that guy is making X amount of money and he's not performing at the right level, everyone in that locker room gets teed off and like, I don't want to play. Why? I'm getting paid this much and he's getting paid that and he's not doing his right. So they did a great job of keeping that locker room together. But it's going to be pretty hard to do it again if Jared doesn't play well, right? Because, again, that's why you have to be careful when, and this is not a knock on Jared, but this is just around the league. When you pay guys, you have to make sure they are that guy. Because as soon as you pay a guy, everyone looks to him to say that's the standard that needs to be set, right? And right now, Jared Goff's the highest paid player on the Rams. He didn't play well this year. And, I mean, he knows that. The Rams know that. Everyone knows that. Like, you watch the tape, it happened. It's important for him to go this offseason and be a much better version of who he was this past year, a cleaner version with no turnovers, a guy that where we saw like that guy that we saw against Philly. You need to see that 16 weeks in a row. And I think that is what the Rams are looking for. The question is, can he do it? I don't know, right? Because we've seen it here and there, but we just haven't seen it consistently.
I would take the guy I saw in Green Bay for 16 weeks, and I bet you'd win more than 12 games.
That's a guy with that defense. 9 fingers.
Yeah.
And so I think that he felt the pressure, and that to me is what sometimes that's what it is. Like when you hear a coach say we need competition at every position, I'll tell you what I used to think. I used to be like, I didn't do my job then, so let me get back to training right now. Let me get right now, because that means you're telling me I didn't do enough to secure my starting spot. And so we didn't hear him say that about the defensive end position where Aaron Donald is, or the star position where Jalen Ramsey was. We didn't hear him say that about Robert Woods, right? And so when you kind of get singled out that way, you only have one way to respond, or not one way. It's either you are going to respond or you're not going to respond. And I can't wait to see how Jared handles it.
Well, we will talk about the stars that were on the field this season. We're giving away season awards because the Rams did finish better than we expected, 10-6, their 4th straight winning season. They defended the rivals, their Seahawk rivals on the road in the wild card round. A lot of positives to take away. So let's give away some awards. We're going to start with offense. Our MVP on offense. Maurice, I'll just start with you. I know. Is it Cooper Kupp for you? Did he give you all the fantasy points you wanted?
I thought Cooper Kupp did an amazing job this season, but to me it has to be Robert Woods. He showed up every game in crucial situations, going across the middle, taking big hits, blocks. I mean, he did everything, running the ball. He did it all this year for the Rams. And it was his grit more than anything that I loved. It was less about the stats, but that when the Rams were down, you knew he was going to come up with a big play. And He did. I would say 98% of the time, correct me if I'm wrong, 98% of the time, like when it was a crunch time play, they were doubling Cooper Kupp, and then Robert Woods was coming wide open. So to me, just a guy that was consistent. He was the one that kind of brought the energy, and that's what you needed for your MVP, and Robert Woods did that.
Yeah. DeMarco, do you feel the same way? I mean, Robert Woods showed he had dog in him. That's what they say. Like, this guy had dog in him. He won an Angry Runs award for Good Morning Football.
I was going to go with Gerald Everett. I'm kidding. No. It's a no-brainer, man. It really is. It's a no-brainer. I mean, Maurice said it all there. It is Robert Woods. Second in reception, second in receiving yards, 6 touchdown catches, 4th in rushing. I wish we had a stat for lead blockers because he would be out there. But this is what I like most. 2 game-saving tackles. 1 versus New England. Okay, he got credit for the tackle. And he should have had a safety versus Arizona when Cam Akers fumbled at the goal line. Watch that play again. Watch him zap in there and make a play. I mean, so, yeah, Robert Woods is your heart and soul. I think he may be your 3rd toughest guy on the football team, period, end of story. If there's a bar fight of the L.A. Rams, there's 3 guys I know that are walking out. Ramsey, Donald, and then Robert Woods. I mean, he is just that tough, but on that side of the football.
JB, no Cam Akers. No takes for Cam Akers.
No, because Cam's first half was quiet, and that was while the Rams were sorting through their running back by committee. And honestly, I would say the same for Darrell Henderson in the first half when he was one of the league's best backs. I don't like being put in a position to argue against Robert Woods because I would never. I would agree with but I'm also happy to pick 2nd or 3rd on this list because I think I can easily make a case for Cooper Kupp. Maybe statistically not as prolific as he was a year ago, but I'll say this: it was his best run blocking grade, and I think a lot of what Aaron Kromer and Sean McVay and company were able to do this year with their running backs and their revamped portfolio in the backfield was because you could have Cooper Kupp go dig out a middle linebacker and put them on or ahead of schedule. So I think there was a reason why he was one of the highest graded receivers in terms of run blocking because he was instrumental in that role. And when he was absent from that role, you could see how the run game got bogged down a little bit without him.
That is on my new Christmas list for 2021. I need Cooper Kupp for the last game of the year, every year.
Well, and it's not like he made explosive plays in the passing game either. Like he didn't find the end zone as often as Robert Woods. It was kind of the inverse of 2019 in that regard, but he made big plays. Like they may not beat the Giants without his touchdown catch and run. They may not beat the Seahawks in the wild card without that 44-yard acrobatic play. I mean, he made big time catches.
For defensive MVP, is this if you're not picking Aaron Donald, then who? Is this how we work this, Maurice?
So this is what I would say. We know Aaron Donald definitely every year is that. We know Jalen Ramsey is that. To me, I think we need to give Darius Williams credit, right? To be on the other side, to get targeted a ton, but not only get targeted to make plays, right? I also believe that Troy Hill deserves a lot of credit too, right? Those 2 guys stepped in some huge situations and made plays for this defense. To me, the Rams wouldn't be 10-6 without those 2. It's hard to pick one of them. If it's, the interception against the Giants, right? Cooper Kupp makes that big play, but we forget the Giants start marching down to win the game. And it's that interception late by Darius Williams on the sideline against the Cardinals with the backup quarterback, even though Kyler Murray probably should have played, but it's the pick 6 from Troy Hill that gets you going. It's the pick 6 against the Cardinals before that, right? It's the fumble recovery from Aaron Donald where he goes against the Niners. Those touchdowns and those abilities to shut down drives by those 2 guys were huge. So,
yeah, and you can also mention Leonard Floyd, DeMarco. What do you kind of think here? John Johnson, defensive signal caller. Too many names, but yeah. What are your thoughts on defense?
I think I'll go with the defensive player of the year, JB.
There you go.
Come on. I mean, look. Let me put some spice on it. Look at Seattle. Just go back and look at that game. Look at Russell Wilson. Look at how he's reacting. The first half, definitely. Aaron's all over him, killing the Seahawks. Then go watch Green Bay when Aaron's clearly compromised and watch how comfortable Aaron Rodgers is. If there was any doubt about how important Aaron Donald is to this defense and how good he is, go watch those 2 games. That'll tell you everything. So I'll go with AD.
All right. Well, then forget AD and defense because that was an obvious. For special teams, DeMarco, because you've talked a lot about how clutch Johnny Hekker has been. But if you're going between Matt Gay, who's clearly made such a huge impact on this team, or Johnny Hekker, now put some spice on this one.
Okay, then I'll completely bypass the 2 and go to Nick Scott.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Nick Scott, his presence on special teams is so important. Didn't he miss the Jets game? Didn't the Rams get 1 blocked?
Almost 2.
Almost 2. And what game was that, Maurice, where he made that perfect, just picture-perfect open field tackle? One-on-one.
Was it Tampa?
On a punt returner. The shiftiest guy on the football team is your punt returner, and Nick Scott nailed him dead to rights, middle of the field. That's the stuff that gives you a gold star. I'll go with Nick Scott.
How about Rookie of the Year? Basically have 2 choices, right? You can go offense with Cam Akers or defense with Jordan Fuller.
Cam, because to your point, JB, he came in the second half of the season, and there he was. 1 games for us. I mean, he was incredible. And Tampa Bay scores his first touchdown, against that defense, which is they're still playing. My vote would be Cam Akers on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jordan Fuller. And listen, I'm taking the playoffs out of it because, yes, he took over in the playoffs. He took over late in the year, he did. But Jordan Fuller made plays from day one. And that we have to remember, there were some plays where there should have been touchdowns down the middle of the field. He was there to break it up. There were plays where Ramsey was beat sometimes. He was there to clean it up. He had 2 interceptions against the Bucks. He showed up. And not only did he show up, imagine the tackles and the big hits that he made on those touchdown saving tackles that he had against some teams, right? And then imagine without him. Remember, we didn't have him for a couple weeks, right? He goes on IR. The back end doesn't look the same. It doesn't look like the dominant back end that we were used to seeing. I just felt like for a rookie to come in and play a real important part of the number 1 defense in the National Football League, he definitely deserves that.
Ooh. I'll go with Cam.
Thanks, DeMarco. Appreciate
I'll go with Cam. How do I say this? I don't know what this offseason is going to hold for John Johnson III, but there's going to be competition for those safety jobs when Taylor Rapp comes back. I'll just leave it there. So I'll go with Cam Akers. I would have loved for him not to have hurt the rib cage and missed that time and had that start-stop, because the way he finished, imagine if that was midseason. If he's just rumbling like he's rumbling and he's setting up his blocks and he's feeling what the defense is doing and being a complete threat, inside, outside, and receiving the football. Imagine if that was week 6, 7, or 8. Imagine what that would do for the football team. Imagine what that could have done for Jared Goff. So I'll go with Cam Akers.
I love that he and his rookie classmate Van Jefferson saved their best for last with that hook and ladder on the 2-point conversion in Green Bay. How's that for an offseason teaser? All right, you mentioned some of the issues facing the Rams in terms of budget and decisions and contracts this offseason. John Johnson, a big part of that. But let's actually start on offense, Maurice Jones-Drew. Toughest free agent decision facing the Rams on that side of the football. You got Malcolm Brown, Josh Reynolds completing a rookie contract, likewise for Gerald Everett, and Austin Blythe, who transitioned to center and did so successfully.
It's probably going to be Austin Blythe. I think Malcolm Brown, you're going to let him go just because you have Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson. You probably draft another guy late. Tight end wise, you drafted one last year, didn't really play like you expected, but you probably can go and get another one this year. It's hard to get a center that understands your offense, understands your protections, understands your quarterback, how you want to run the ball, all those things. And I think that, like you said, he played really well. And to me, Austin Blythe is going to be should be the number 1 guy for them free agent-wise, try to sign back just to keep that offensive line together. Because, again, let's talk about it. When the Rams were rolling offensively, that offensive line was together for, 2 years straight? No one missed a game? That's what you want to try to get to. So I think that's the piece that they're trying to get back to.
All right, on defense, let's start with some good news. Darius Williams had a career season. He's affordable thanks to a potential tender. But then it gets a little complicated because you're also changing defensive coordinators, and you've got a host of players who are coming off career seasons. John Johnson, Troy Hill, Leonard Floyd, Morgan Fox, Samson Ebukam. Like, the Aaron Donald effect is real, and a lot of these guys benefited, just like Dante Fowler did a season ago. So who's the most important piece to maintain some continuity with, DeMarco? Who do you not have a drafted replacement for on defense?
You know, for me, I think you have to put a fence around Leonard Floyd just because of the scheme and what you are, and you have Aaron Donald. So if you have that inside-outside presence, you're almost elite quarterback proof. You can get pressure from the inside and the outside, at least from the left side with Leonard Floyd. And I think if you actually work with him, I think there's more there for him. I think you can make him a flop sides type guy and keep him effective. So I'd say him. It's tough, man. But think about this. Raheem Morris is coming in, and he made his bones as a secondary coach, and you still have Aubrey Pleasant, and you have Jalen Ramsey. So I love John Johnson III, but I'm not sure if you need to pay safeties because you can grow them. You can develop them. You can put them in. You can plug and play with those guys. But as far as pass rushers are concerned, these guys just don't fall off. 10-sack guys just don't fall off trees. And as long as you have Aaron Donald, I think you need to feed that almost as much as you feed a elite quarterback or a high-priced quarterback like Jared Goff. So I'd say Leonard Floyd.
Well, there's a lot of work to be done this offseason, but that is a wrap for our season recap episode of Between the Horns. Guys, it's been great working with you this season. Also, speaking of great times, you got SoFi Stadium, and we can't wait for all of you fans to get into the Rams house next season. There's still time to be amongst the first to experience the gorgeous, lovely, beautiful SoFi Stadium. So please join us, purchase your season tickets, visit therams.com/2021, and make sure you also download the Rams app so you can find us all, stay up to date on all the off-season news. That will be a lot. So make sure you do that. For DeMarco Farr, Maurice Jones-Drew, JB Long, my friends, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you. I miss you all, and I hope everyone has a great off season.
Definitely.